Speaker number 3, David Brooks. Silver bullets. Silver bullets. David Brooks.
You can't go home again. That's what Thomas Wolfe said. But ladies and gentlemen, I was born and raised in Dallas, Texas, and I've come home, and it feels good. Mr. Chairman, fellow Toastmasters and guests, in case you're wondering, yes, some of us really do dress this way down here. The tuxedo is a symbol of respect, and the jeans, well, that just means we put a little too much oil money into Texas savings and loans. It's the matter of respect, however, that is the foundation of my message today. And in a time in which the famous are becoming infamous, when contemptible behavior is becoming commonplace, maybe it's time we look beyond mere symbols. Maybe it's time we all came home again to a few values we seem to have left behind. First, let me tell you what I left behind. I said I was raised in Dallas. Truth is, I grew up just a few miles south of here in a tiny town named DeSoto, which as far as I know is the only town in the state named for a car. Remember Mayberry? Well, it was a lot like Mayberry, only not nearly as cosmopolitan. But it was home for the first half of my life, the place where my two brothers and I learned values and principles, where we learned about honor, integrity, and self-respect. And from whom did we learn these values? From television. Yes, television. Because that's where our heroes lived. Oh, sure, our parents tried to teach us the same values, but we were kids. We paid attention to television. Remember now, this was 30 years ago, and we had different role models then. Bart Simpson and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. No, this was the era of Superman, Sky King, and Roy Rogers. My brothers and I would watch their shows, and when they were over, we would go outside and reenact them. My older brother, of course, he'd get to be Roy Rogers. So naturally, I got to be Dale Evans. That wasn't so bad, really. Our little brother got to be Trigger. Yes, we had great role models then. But the best one of all, though, was, wait, let's see if you remember. I'm going to start a famous phrase, and I want you to finish it when I give you this sign. But remember, we do things big down here, so I want them to hear you from Singapore to San Antone. Are you ready? Then return with me now to those thrilling days of yesteryear. A fiery horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty... Yes! The Lone Ranger rides again. Makes you feel good, doesn't it? Well, from the moment I heard those words, I was swept away to a time and place where honor, integrity, and self-respect were valued and rewarded. I wanted to grow up to be just like the Lone Ranger. I wanted to ride a fiery white stallion. I wanted to wear a mysterious black mask, and I wanted to shoot silver bullets. But more than this, I wanted to be like the Lone Ranger, because even as a child, I could tell there was something very special about a person who stood tall, a person who stood for what he believed in. But then something happened, and everything changed. I grew up. And as I learned to separate fantasy from fact, I learned a terrifying truth. I learned that the heroes of a modern world were but mere mortals. And oh, what fools these mortals be. Why, in just the last 3 years, we've seen an Olympic athlete stripped of his gold medals because he used drugs. We've seen not one but 2 television ministers fall from grace. We've seen billionaires bankrupted by greed. And we've seen Donald Trump be Donald Trump. Honor, integrity, self-respect. It seemed we'd left them all behind. Until last year. And once again, I saw it on television. June 3rd, 1989, Beijing. After days of peaceful protest, a column of armored tanks rumbled into Tiananmen Square. Everyone in their path ran for safety. Everyone but one. About 100 yards down the street, planted firmly on the center line, one man remained. He stood alone. The tanks kept coming, their massive steel tracks clawing at the center line. And the man stood firm. And the tanks came closer and closer until the lead tank had closed to within inches. And the man stood tall. And the tanks stopped. I wanted to cheer, but I was choked by tears. Who was this man who moved me so? I wanted to know. Oh, but then I remembered. You're not supposed to know the Lone Ranger's name. Oh, in that one triumphant moment, he took us back to yesteryear, to a wonderful time and place where people stood for what they believed in, no matter what the cost. And he reminded us of what we have all known since we were children. That to make a difference, we only need 3 silver bullets. Honor, integrity, and self-respect. Yes, in more ways than one, we can come home again.
And now, the 1990 world champion, David Brooks.
Thanks. First, I would like to congratulate my fellow competitors on an outstanding contest. I'd like to thank the judges for a fine decision. You pick up little bits of wisdom in strangest places. Here's a little tidbit that I got from a beer commercial. It doesn't get any better than this. I believe it was someone who said, "It's contact with others that teaches all one knows." Over the course of my life, I've had contact with many thousand people, and I would like to thank them all by name. Unfortunately, I'll do that personally, save you a little bit of time this morning. Of course, as I already recognized, exactly 1/2 of this trophy belongs to my wife, the person who knows this speech as well as I do. addition to the fine people from Austin, from Dallas, from Region 3, and across the country that have supported me and convinced me that I could be standing here today, there are a couple of people I would like to recognize. First is a person who is not with us here physically, but will live on with us forever in spirit, our good friend and my mentor, David Abel. It was only 2 years ago that he pulled me aside and he told me that I could be standing here. And if you knew David, you knew that if he said that, you could bank on it. And finally, I would like to acknowledge that mountain of a man in Tiananmen Square. He touched me deeply. He will live with me forever. And now, if I may ask your kind indulgence, what do you say we do it one more time? Are you ready? A fiery horse with a speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty...